Have you ever had that moment when everything in your life seems perfect, only to realize it could all unravel in an instant? I'm 23, standing on the edge of what should be the happiest moment of my life, my wedding to Elijah, the man I've loved since I was 19. I thought I knew everything: love, happiness, the people around me. Until last night, when my world started shifting in ways I could never have expected. We first met when I was 19. Our families have known each other for years. My dad and Elijah's dad are business partners and close friends. One summer evening, they threw a small party at their house. The warm glow of string lights lit up the backyard, soft music played from hidden speakers, and the smell of grilled food mingled with the fresh scent of grass after a light rain. That night, I saw him for the first time, Elijah, standing alone in the backyard, a cigarette in hand, staring at the night sky. There was something magnetic about him, but I told myself, he's older. I don't stand a chance. My heart was racing, but I didn't believe he'd ever notice me. Then, my sister dared me to go talk to him. I remember how awkward my first words were, but his smile. Oh, his smile made every fear disappear. A year later, we officially started dating. From that moment, my life felt brighter. Elijah brought safety, humor, and a deep love I hadn't known existed. Fast forward to last summer. Elijah proposed to me on a trip to Belize. Standing there on the beach, the sunset reflecting on the waves, he got down on one knee. My heart was pounding, tears welling up as I said yes. I thought that moment would last forever. Everyone congratulated us, family, friends, co-workers. Everyone except one person. Kami.Kami has been Elijah's friend since childhood. Their families are very close. From the very first time I met her, she wanted to be my best friend. Honestly, it felt a little weird. We barely knew each other, and I already had my tight-knit group of friends. Plus, she was dating Antonio, Elijah's best friend at the time. I assumed she was just being friendly. From then on, we never really became close. Kami stayed within her boundaries, and I didn't think much of it now. Just a month before the wedding, it was time for my bachelorette party. I invited all my closest friends and family, my sister, cousins, best friends, along with a few of Elijah's family members. And yes, Kami, I wanted everyone to have fun, to celebrate me without any drama. Little did I know, last night would change everything. The bachelorette party took place in a luxurious suite in Miami. The room was buzzing, upbeat music filled the space. Gold-toned lights reflected off champagne glasses, creating little sparks like stars in the air. I walked in, feeling a mix of excitement and nervous energy. Holding my champagne flute, I laughed with my sister and friends. The sound of laughter blending with the music and the faint echo of the elevator down the hall. The scene was perfect, cinematic even. Kami arrived a little later, dressed elegantly but understated. Her smile was polite, but something about her seemed off. She scanned the room as if looking for something, but didn't quite join in. I brushed it off. Maybe she was still adjusting after breaking up with Antonio a few months ago. As everyone danced and chatted, I decided to step out to the bathroom. The hallway was narrow, the lights soft, and music trickled through the suite. As I passed the living room, I heard it, quiet sobbing, muffled whispers. At first, I thought I was imagining things. But then I realized it was Kami talking to Ava. I stopped, curiosity and concern mingling, careful to stay hidden. You don't understand why he'd choose her. It should have been me, Commie whispered, her voice trembling. I've always loved him, and now it's her. My chest tightened. Time seemed to freeze. My heart raced. I felt a surge of anger, disbelief, and hurt all at once. How could someone I trusted, someone supposedly Elijah's friend, say this? At my party, Ava stepped forward, her tone firm yet gentle. Commie, this is not the time. He would never forgive you if you ruined this night. You need to step outside and get yourself together. Commie looked down, wiping her eyes, and quietly left the suite. I followed at a safe distance, guiding her to the door without saying a word. My mind was spinning. Did she actually have feelings for Elijah? Had there been something between them that I didn't know about? The world I thought I understood seemed suddenly fragile. Returning to the party, I forced a smile, laughed with friends, tried to mask the whirlwind inside me. But beneath that facade, my mind raced. I had to talk to Ava, then to Elijah. I needed answers. Not now. I wanted to savor a little of this night for myself, but soon. I sipped my champagne, looking around the room. The glow of the lights caught every smiling face, every sparkling glass, every playful laugh, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I believed about love, trust, and friendship might not be as solid as I thought. I stepped out onto the balcony, letting the warm Miami breeze wash over me. The ocean shimmered in the distance, city lights twinkling like 1,000 tiny fires. Music thumped softly from inside. I took a deep breath. The night was beautiful, magical even. But I knew that the real story, with all its emotions, secrets, and life-changing decisions, had only just begun. The suite was still buzzing when I returned from the balcony, trying to mask the storm of emotions inside me. Music thumped through the speakers, a playful rhythm that seemed almost cruel compared to the chaos in my head. My friends laughed, sharing stories from college, teasing each other, the air thick with perfume and champagne. Miami nights had a way of making everything feel cinematic. The neon glow outside mixing with golden light inside, reflecting off sequined dresses and champagne glasses. Camille was back inside, though slightly withdrawn. She hovered near the corner of the room, a glass of wine in hand, scanning the room like a stranger in familiar territory. The sight made my stomach twist. I tried to tell myself not to overreact. Maybe she was just having a rough night. Maybe the breakup with Antonio was still fresh. But her earlier words, they weren't just sadness. They were something else. Something dangerous. I forced a smile, raising my glass to my sister. Cheers, I said, and everyone echoed it. We laughed, clinking glasses. The sound was hollow to me. Ava, Elijah's sister, seemed to notice the tension. She sidled up to me, lowering her voice. Hey, you saw that, didn't you? She asked gently. I nodded, heart hammering. Yeah, I admitted. I don't know what to do. Her expression softened, but her eyes were sharp. Just stay calm. Don't confront her here. Let her cool off. Elijah needs to handle this, not you. I wanted to argue. I wanted to storm over there and demand answers. But I nodded. Ava was right. I needed to survive the night. This was my bachelorette, not a showdown. I drifted to the corner of the room, leaning against the wall, pretending to check my phone. In reality, I was observing, scanning the room. Friends were dancing, taking selfies, laughing, completely unaware of the tension brewing just a few feet away. Commie was talking quietly to one of Elijah's cousins, her head tilted, voice low. I couldn't hear the words, but the way she leaned in, almost conspiratorial, made my skin crawl. The carefree, polished party girl mask was cracking. Her eyes flickered toward Elijah whenever he laughed with someone else, and my chest tightened each time. I remembered the first time I'd met her properly, years ago. She was polite, enthusiastic, almost aggressively friendly. She wanted to be best friends from day one. I'd found it odd but harmless. Back then, she was with Antonio, and I was new in Elijah's world. I had my own friends and didn't crave a replacement. Over time, we maintained a polite distance. She never crossed boundaries, never tried to manipulate situations. Or so I thought. A few hours into the party, the group was slightly drunk, laughter turning into more rambunctious energy. Someone started a playlist on the phone, and suddenly the suite was filled with familiar pop hits. My friends started dancing in the small living room, some spilling onto the balcony, hair catching the light. I watched them, but my attention was elsewhere. Elijah was talking to Ava, animated and relaxed, completely unaware of the storm in his world. Kami drifted toward them. I saw it happen in slow motion. She leaned in, voice low, whispering something to Ava. Ava shook her head slightly, her eyebrows knit. Then she stepped away, her expression a mix of warning and frustration. I caught Kami's eyes for a brief second. There was desperation there, but also longing. I wanted to disappear into the floor. Every instinct screamed at me to intervene, to protect what was mine, but I stayed rooted. Instead, I grabbed another glass of champagne, letting it warm my hands. My mind raced. Did she think Elijah felt the same? Did she believe there was a chance he'd choose her over me? The room felt surreal. Friends dancing, laughing, oblivious, while I was caught in a private storm. My heartbeat was loud in my ears. I had always prided myself on being rational, calm, composed. But in that moment, the rational part of me and the raw, terrified part of me collided. I decided to step away again, moving toward the small kitchenette at the back. I leaned against the counter, pretending to make myself another drink. From this vantage point, I could watch without being seen. Kama and Ava returned to the balcony. The music from inside was muffled out here, replaced by the sounds of the city and ocean. I could barely make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable, emotional pleading, desperate. She's going to ruin everything. I can't let this happen, Ava said firmly, trying to calm her down. I don't understand why he would ever choose her over me. It should have been me, Kami replied, her voice trembling. I've always loved him. Always. My stomach dropped. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, to demand she leave, to protect Elijah from himself, if that was even possible. Every scenario ran through my mind. Confrontation, yelling, crying, tears, accusations. But I stayed silent. I had learned long ago that the best way to survive chaos is to let it happen around you without giving it fuel. Eventually, Ava's voice softened. Kami, just calm down. Step inside, take a few deep breaths. You're making this about the wrong time, the wrong place. Elijah will never forgive you if this ruins her night. Kami wiped her face, a shaky sigh escaping her lips. Then, without a word, she stepped inside the suite. I followed quietly, just enough to guide her to the door without drawing attention. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. When we reached the lobby, she stopped, looking down at the floor. I might need to go home," she said quietly. I nodded, not saying a word. I didn't need to. My silence was louder than anything I could have said. Back in the suite, I tried to rejoin the party. Friends laughed, taking shots, dancing to the music, utterly unaware of the emotional earthquake that had just occurred. I smiled, clinking glasses, but inside I was a whirlwind of thoughts. How long had Kami felt this way? Was this just some fleeting, drunken admission? Or had she been harboring this obsession for months, maybe years? Elijah was in the middle of the group now, joking with Antonio and a few friends, completely unaware. I wanted to tell him everything immediately, but I stopped myself. Not yet. I needed a plan, a strategy. Reacting out of emotion would only make things worse. I poured myself another glass of champagne, staring out at the balcony, watching the city lights twinkle over the water. Miami at night had always been magical, but tonight it felt cold, sharp. Every laugh inside the suite sounded distant, like it was happening in someone else's world. I thought about how fragile happiness could be, how trust could be tested in an instant. And I realized something important. This night was supposed to be about me, about celebrating my upcoming marriage, but it had become a test of resilience, of patience, and of clarity. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced smiles, careful navigation, and strategic avoidance. I talked to friends, laughed when I needed to, even danced a little, but my mind never left the balcony, never left Kami's words echoing in my ears. I kept replaying the conversation, analyzing every tone, every glance, every inflection. How could someone so close to Elijah, someone who supposedly loved him as a friend, cross this line? By the time the night ended, I was emotionally exhausted. Kami had left quietly, no fanfare, no confrontation. I escorted her to the elevator, my heart still racing, my mind still spinning. I walked back to the suite, took a deep breath, and tried to center myself. I had survived the storm, but I knew the real confrontation was still ahead. The questions, the answers, and the decisions that could change everything were waiting for me the next day. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds of our Miami suite, cutting across the room where I was still trying to sort through the whirlwind of emotions from last night. My bachelorette party was supposed to be fun, a celebration before the wedding, but now it felt more like a test of patience and rationality. I kept thinking about Kami. Her words echoed in my mind. I've always loved him, and now it's her. Every time I recalled them, I felt a mix of anger and hurt. I had never seen Elijah as someone could covet with such jealousy and longing. He had always been genuine and careful, but suddenly, the image of us together felt fragile. I knew I couldn't handle these feelings alone. I needed to talk to Ava first, the one who had witnessed everything. I grabbed my phone and texted, "Ava, can we meet for a minute? I need to talk about Kami." She replied quickly, "I'm getting ready, 10 minutes. When Ava arrived, she looked at me with a serious but gentle expression. "Did you get any sleep?" she asked. I shook my head. "A few hours. Maybe. I keep thinking about last night, about what Kami said, and I don't know how to feel." Ava sat down beside me, taking a deep breath. "I know you're shocked. No one wants to hear that someone close to the person they love has feelings beyond friendship. But listen, Elijah doesn't feel that way. He has never seen Carmi romantically. He's only ever viewed her as a childhood friend. I nodded, but doubt still lingered. But what if she really loves him? What if she's been hiding it all this time? Ava sighed. That's why we need to handle this maturely. We won't let her feelings ruin your wedding. Elijah will speak to her directly, but first, you need to prepare yourself. Stay calm. If you react impulsively, it will only make things worse. I gazed out the window at the bright blue water. It felt strange, such a beautiful day, but my heart was still in turmoil. Could love and trust really survive a test like this? When Elijah returned, he looked as cheerful as ever, but I could tell he sensed the tension in the room. I took a deep breath and started. Elijah, last night, about Carmi. I began, my voice trembling but trying to stay calm. He looked at me immediately, serious. Has Ava told you anything yet? I shook my head. No, and I wanted to hear from you directly. Do you know how she feels? Has anything unusual happened between you two? Elijah inhaled, his face turning serious. No, not at all. Carmi is a childhood friend. We've never dated, never had romantic feelings. I've never thought of her that way. She might be confusing her emotions, especially after breaking up with Antonio, but to me, she's just a friend. Hearing this gave me some relief, but I still wasn't fully convinced. I told him every detail, what Carmi said to Ava, her behavior, and every glance I caught last night. With each detail, Elijah's face shifted from concern to fury. He exhaled, serious. I'm furious she did this on your night. This is your night, ours, and she had no right to ruin it. I'm going to call her now. I shook my head. Not yet, not now. If you call her while angry, it'll only get worse. We need to calm down first and hear her side. Only when everyone is level-headed can this be clarified. Elijah nodded and looked at me. I understand. We'll handle this together. I want you to know I'm completely on your side. We're in this together. All morning we sat together, planning how to deal with Carmi. I was still shaken, but with Elijah by my side, I felt stronger. We decided Elijah would speak to Carmi directly, while I observed from a distance. Antonio would also be present, as her ex-boyfriend and someone who could provide perspective on her emotions. We agreed to meet Carmi at a small cafe near the hotel. When she arrived, she avoided eye contact, her face tense, and I immediately realized she was still not composed. Elijah stood tall, calm but serious. Carmi, we need to talk. I want to understand what's going on. Carmi exhaled shakily, eyes glistening. I don't know. I didn't want to hurt anyone, especially you, but I just needed you to know how I feel. Elijah placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Carmi, I know. But you shouldn't have said those things on her bachelorette night. It wasn't fair to her, and it's not right for me. I've never had romantic feelings for you. You're confusing your emotions. We're friends, nothing more. She was silent, head down, tears streaming. Antonio, sitting nearby, spoke softly. Carmi, you need to stop. I know you still have feelings, but now isn't the time. Let them enjoy their wedding. The conversation lasted nearly an hour. Carmi cried, explained, and tried to justify her feelings, but in the end, she realized the truth. Elijah remained calm, gentle, but firm. I stood in the corner, heart racing, a mixture of relief and lingering shock. When it ended, Kami left quietly. No drama, no confrontation, just silence and composure. I exhaled and looked at Elijah. He smiled and pulled me into his arms. "I'm sorry you had to go through this. But now, we're okay. We're together, right?" I nodded, feeling a wave of peace wash over me. I knew our wedding wouldn't be haunted by unclear emotions anymore. Elijah, me, our friends and family, we were about to have a day that was truly ours. Asterisk. A week after the direct conversation with Kami, I felt a bit of the pressure lift, but the air was still heavy. Every time I thought about the upcoming wedding, my heart raced with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Now, it wasn't just about choosing the dress or arranging tables. It was about protecting my joy and peace from outside interference. That morning, I woke earlier than usual. Sunlight streamed through the Miami blinds, creating warm streaks across the wooden floor. I stood in front of the mirror, looking into my own eyes, telling myself, I will not let anyone disrupt my wedding day. First up, dress fittings. I walked into the salon, where gowns hung on every rack, sunlight highlighting the delicate lace and layers of tulle. The seamstress smiled, handling each detail with care. Slipping into my chosen dress felt surreal, simultaneously delicate and powerful. I pictured myself walking down the aisle, Elijah smiling at me, and I realized that all outside drama had to take a back seat to this joy. Still, my mind kept drifting back to Kami. I wondered if she would keep her distance or try to insert herself into pre-wedding events. Elijah had set boundaries, but someone with strong feelings like hers, especially after breaking up with Antonio, wasn't likely to back away completely. While I was trying on dresses, Ava arrived to help. She smiled at me warmly. "You look amazing like a queen." I smiled back, but her expression quickly turned serious. "I know you're still worried about Kami. We need to make a plan for all pre-wedding events. Don't give her any chance to stir trouble." We began listing each event: dress rehearsal, family dinner, group photos. Ava reminded me to always have someone nearby, especially Antonio, so that if Kami showed up, there would be someone to manage the situation. I sighed but felt a sense of relief. We had a plan, and at least I wouldn't face it alone. That afternoon, Elijah and I did a final walkthrough of the wedding venue. The turquoise ocean, white sand, and vibrant floral arrangements lining the aisle felt like something out of a magazine. Elijah held my hand, his gaze soft and steady. "I know you're worried, but it'll be fine. No one can ruin this day." I smiled lightly, though tension still lingered. "Are you sure?" Kami was intense at the bachelorette party. "I don't want her showing up and ruining the vibe." Elijah exhaled, looking into my eyes. "I've already talked to her. She knows the boundaries. She won't cross the line. I trust her words, and I trust you. We'll handle it together." I nodded, feeling a little more at ease. But Elijah knew I needed backup. He decided to call Antonio that evening to discuss how to handle any unpredictable situations that night. We hosted a pre-wedding dinner with family and a few close friends. I braced myself for any surprises, but luckily, Kami didn't show up. The evening flowed with laughter, clinking glasses, and cheerful conversation. Yet, the tension didn't fully dissipate. Every time my phone buzzed, I tensed, worried it might be Kami texting. But nothing came. Slowly, I realized that much of the power wasn't about controlling others, it was about controlling my own emotions. The next day, we had a group photo session with family and friends. I wore a short trial dress for ease of movement, sunlight glinting off my hair, creating a scene worthy of a wedding magazine. Elijah stood by me, smiling, and I realized that no external threat, karmi or otherwise, could ruin this moment. Ava stayed close, watching for any signs of trouble. If Kami appeared, she'd immediately step in. Antonio was also present, ready to intervene if necessary. I felt protected, but I also recognized my own growth. I was no longer afraid, no longer letting outsiders dictate my joy. I'd learned to set boundaries, stay calm, and own my happiness. As we wrapped up the photo session, I saw so many beautiful moments: family laughing, friends chatting, Elijah never leaving my side. I realized that issues like Kami or any past drama were only obstacles if I let them be. I exhaled, silently telling myself, I've weathered the storm. Now it's time to enjoy the moment. We ended the session with bright smiles. Elijah placed his hand on my shoulder, looking deep into my eyes. Everything will be okay. We're walking into this day together. Nothing can stop us. I held his hand, feeling warmth spread through me. Yes, we were ready. Kami, the past, or any complications, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was love, trust, and the joy that awaited us on the Miami beach, surrounded by family and friends. The wedding day had finally arrived. I woke up at dawn, sunlight spilling through the Miami blinds, casting soft, warm streaks across the wooden floor. I sat on the edge of the bed with a cup of coffee, taking a deep breath. My heart raced not with fear, but with excitement and anticipation, the kind of flutter that only comes before life-changing moments. Elijah was still asleep, but I couldn't drift back to sleep. My eyes fell on the wedding gown hanging near the door-pure white lace, meticulously tailored details. I whispered to myself, I will walk down that aisle with confidence and joy. Nothing can ruin this day. Soon, everyone arrived. Ava, my older sister, family members, and close friends. The suite buzzed with energy, laughter, hugs, the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with the scent of flowers. Elijah emerged, his eyes lighting up when he saw me. He approached, taking my hand, and in that moment I felt anchored, safe, and ready. You ready? He asked, his voice low and warm. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. All my worries seemed to melt away, even as I prepared. A small part of me remained wary of Kami. I knew she had been warned, but instinct made me stay alert. Ava stayed close, vigilant, scanning the room. Antonio was there too, quietly observing, ready to intervene if necessary. I felt protected, but I also felt stronger, knowing I could face this day without fear. When our car drove us to the beach, the white sand and turquoise water stretched endlessly before us. I couldn't help but gasp. This is paradise, and today is ours. The sunlight glinted off the water, creating sparkling rays, adding a touch of magic to the scene. Elijah squeezed my hand firmly, his gaze unwavering, conveying confidence and peace. The ceremony began. Music filled the air, fresh flowers scented the breeze, and guests lined the aisle. I took each step slowly, heart pounding. Every eye was on me, but my focus was solely on Elijah standing at the altar. Eyes filled with love and admiration. Kami didn't appear, and a wave of relief washed over me. I realized that nothing could disrupt this day if I held on to faith and confidence. When it was time for vows, every word felt sacred, carried by the wind and the sound of waves. Elijah looked into my eyes, his voice deep and steady. I promise to love, respect, and walk beside you, always, through every moment of our lives, I replied, my voice trembling but firm. I promise to love you, trust you, and face every challenge with you. Forever, guests were emotional, some tearing up, but my attention was only on Elijah. In that moment, I understood that past troubles, karma, anxiety, stress were merely obstacles we had overcome. After the ceremony, it was time for the reception. Soft golden lights illuminated the tables, music played gently, and laughter filled the air. Elijah and I circulated among guests, greeting everyone, smiling brightly. I felt happiness radiate, the perfect combination of family, friends, and our shared love. Ava leaned toward me and whispered, "You did so well. There's nothing left to worry about." I smiled, pride and joy swelling in my chest. Yet amidst the joy, I remained observant. Though Kami had been warned, I knew better than to let my guard down completely. Fortunately, she kept her distance. I realized that controlling my emotions mattered more than trying to control anyone else. I had learned to protect my happiness without confrontation or drama. The reception went on until late afternoon. When Elijah and I shared our first dance, his eyes never left mine, his smile unwavering. Everything else faded away, leaving just us, love, trust, and the beginning of our new journey. At the end of the day, as guests departed, I stood barefoot on the cool sand, the breeze playing with my hair. Elijah wrapped his arms around me from behind and whispered, "We did it. Everything is perfect." I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply, savoring the moment. All worries, tensions, and attempts to disrupt us were just minor tests. What mattered most was love, trust, and the happiness we had built together. The morning after the wedding, sunlight poured through the Miami blinds, casting golden streaks across the floor. I woke up with a sense of relief and a full heart. Memories of the day before still vivid. Elijah's smile, our vows, the warmth of friends and family, and the laughter echoing across the beach. It felt like a dream finally come true. Yet even after a nearly perfect wedding, I knew subtle consequences lingered. Though Kami hadn't appeared and everything had gone smoothly, a part of me remained alert. Sometimes, unresolved emotions or strained relationships can sneak into otherwise perfect moments. Elijah woke after me, emerging from the bathroom with a towel around his waist, a gentle smile on his face. "We did it," he said warmly. I smiled back, feeling the calm of being anchored not just by love, but by the partnership we had built to face challenges together. I admitted to him my lingering tension. I still feel a little on edge. Even though everything went so well, it's just hard to forget everything that happened before the wedding. He nodded seriously. "I get it. But yesterday proved we can overcome anything. Kami didn't show up, everyone had a great time, and we handled it. What matters most is that you feel safe and happy." Throughout the day, messages from guests poured in, praising the wedding. "Yesterday was magical, like a fairy tale." Or, "Congratulations. Everything was perfect and beautiful." I smiled at the compliments, but remained vigilant for any concerning messages. One message made me pause. From a friend asking about Kami, I heard she spoke with Elijah before the wedding. "Okay, I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and replied, "Everything's been handled. Boundaries are set, and yesterday was perfect. Thanks for checking in." The day continued with calls and coffee meets from close. Family and friends wanting to hear how we felt after the big day. Elijah stayed by my side the entire time, always resting his hand on my shoulder, reminding me that we were a team. No one could shake our happiness. A key part of the day was addressing lingering dynamics with Carmi. Elijah invited Antonio over to talk things through. His presence was reassuring, not only as a safeguard, but also to ensure that boundaries were understood and respected. Antonio said plainly, "I know she still has feelings, but you've had the conversation clearly. If she keeps her distance, there's nothing to worry about. I'm here to support, too." I felt a wave of relief. Elijah looked at me, gentle but firm. "See, we have a perfect team. No one can disrupt our joy." That evening, we hosted an intimate post-wedding dinner for our closest friends and family. Warm golden lights illuminated the room, fresh flowers added color and scent, and soft jazz floated through the air. Everyone laughed, shared favorite moments from the wedding, and I realized the tension from before had mostly dissolved. I also recognized an important lesson. Subtle stress and unresolved feelings don't always need direct confrontation. Sometimes preparation, composure, and a solid support network are enough. Elijah, Ava, Antonio, and my family were my shield, safeguarding my happiness as the night wound down. Elijah and I walked barefoot along the beach, feeling the cool sand beneath our feet and listening to the gentle waves. We stood in silence, absorbing the day's beauty. I turned to him, "Everything yesterday. Everything. It was all worth it. We overcame so much more than just wedding nerves." He wrapped his arms around me and whispered, "Yes, and we'll face many journeys ahead, but today was ours. Nothing can touch it." I closed my eyes, letting the ocean breeze, the sound of waves, and the golden sunset surround me. I realized that happiness isn't just in perfect moments. It's in the ability to withstand challenges, to trust, and to cherish love fully. Finally, a profound sense of peace settled over me. Carmi, the anxieties, the tiny disruptions, they were all minor obstacles. What mattered was love, trust, and the life Elijah and I were building together. I knew that from this day forward, no matter what challenges came our way, our bond and our happiness would remain unshaken. And in that moment, standing on the Miami beach, with sunlight, sea, and wind around us, I felt fully alive. This is life, and this is true love. A week after the wedding, the whirlwind of celebration had settled into the gentle rhythm of married life. Elijah and I were learning to navigate the simple, ordinary moments that now defined our days. Every morning, I woke to the soft sunlight filtering through our Miami blinds, the distant sound of waves, and the comforting aroma of coffee. Elijah would be in the kitchen, already preparing breakfast, a smile lighting up his face. These quiet moments, so ordinary to anyone else, were profound to me. They were the first signs of a life being built together, moment by moment. Marriage, I quickly realized, wasn't about the grandeur of the ceremony or the perfection of the day itself. It was about the everyday routines, the compromises, the laughter over burnt toast, and the shared silences in the living room. Our first small conflicts emerged almost immediately. Simple things like dividing household chores, deciding where to go for dinner, or managing personal schedules became moments for negotiation. Elijah had long been independent, accustomed to making decisions for himself, and I had my own rhythms and routines. One morning, he intended to go to the gym before work. I felt a flicker of disappointment. My hope had been for us to share breakfast. "I know you wanted to eat together, but I need to get an early start today," he said, genuinely. I took a deep breath, recognizing this as a moment to practice compromise. "Okay, we'll eat lunch together. Just save a little time for us tonight." These small disagreements were lessons in patience, communication, and mutual respect. They reminded us that love isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about negotiating the ordinary with grace. Family dynamics also presented challenges. Some of Elijah's relatives occasionally brought up Carmi in conversations, almost as if the time before the wedding had never fully passed. I felt a twinge of unease, but I quickly realized that the best approach was emotional distance. Elijah and I had a private conversation, establishing clear boundaries and agreeing not to let old issues interfere with our new life. "We've already been through enough," Elijah said firmly, his hand finding mine. "We don't need to let the past affect us now." I nodded, grateful for his steady presence, knowing that together we could protect the space we were building. Amid these challenges, small moments of unexpected joy reminded me why marriage was worth every adjustment. One evening, after a long day, Elijah set up a dinner on our balcony, with candles and soft jazz playing in the background. We ate together, the sun dipping below the horizon, the ocean stretching endlessly before us. Moments like these revealed the true magic of married life. It wasn't flashy or performative, was intimate, personal, and deeply human. Friends also played a crucial role during these early weeks. Ava remained a steadfast presence, listening, offering guidance, and ensuring I had someone to turn to for perspective. Antonio occasionally checked in as well, ensuring that boundaries with Carmi remained clear. I felt immense gratitude for the support network surrounding us, one that reinforced trust, security, and happiness. One afternoon, we met friends at a nearby cafe. The conversation was light and cheerful, yet I remained attentive to subtle dynamics, aware that old tensions could resurface. I realized that part of married life involved emotional vigilance, not paranoia, but an awareness that allowed me to maintain peace without confrontation. Another challenge emerged with Elijah's work commitments. He was invited to an important professional event that would take up the entire day. Initially, I felt a hint of jealousy, but I quickly recognized that trust and support were far more powerful than insecurity. "Go ahead," I told him. "I'll be fine." He looked at me, a mixture of relief and gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you. You're my anchor," he said. These early tests, from work, social dynamics, and personal habits, taught us to negotiate, communicate openly, and share responsibilities. We learned that marriage is less about perfection and more about partnership. How do people adjust, compromise, and grow together? Friendships outside the marriage were tested too. Some of our friends were still adjusting to the idea that we were a united couple, and a few seemed to enjoy subtle provocations. I quickly learned the art of responding firmly yet gracefully. I wouldn't tolerate disruption, but I also didn't need to escalate tension. For example, one evening, a friend casually brought up Kami during a conversation. I smiled lightly, redirecting the focus. "Tonight, let's just celebrate what we have our lives together." It was a gentle assertion of boundaries, an example of maintaining composure without confrontation. Throughout these weeks, Elijah and I realized that marriage is a continuous journey. Each day brought small challenges, but it also brought countless opportunities for joy, growth, and connection. We learned to work in rhythm. Sometimes he yielded, sometimes I adapted, and together we shared responsibilities, laughter, and the small victories that make life rich. One morning, as we sat on the balcony sipping coffee and listening to the waves, I reflected on how far we had come. We've been through so much already. All the pre-wedding stress, the worries about others. It's all taught us how to be stronger. I thought Elijah stood behind me, his hand resting on my shoulder, a silent gesture of reassurance. In that moment, I felt a profound peace. Not every day would be perfect, but together we could weather anything by the end of the week. A powerful lesson had crystallized in my mind. Marriage is not a single perfect day or a grand event. It's the accumulation of choices, compromises, and love expressed in ordinary moments. It's about trust, respect, and the willingness to grow together through the mundane as well as the extraordinary. I smiled at Elijah, who mirrored my expression, and said, "We'll face challenges ahead, but if we face them together, everything will be fine." He smiled back, soft and certain, always. "And I'll always be here, by your side, through everything," standing on our balcony in Miami. Sunlight glinting off the water, the breeze ruffling our hair. I finally understood. Marriage is a journey without end, and we were ready to take it hand in hand, heart to heart, facing life together, come what may. The time after he confessed that he had only just truly fallen in love with me wasn't as simple as I had hoped. By day, everything felt peaceful and happy, but at night, thoughts swirled like hidden currents. I kept asking myself, what did our feelings mean for the past 3 years? Was he just living out a sense of duty, or was there love? I tried to push the doubts aside, not wanting them to overshadow the present. Yet every beautiful memory became a complex mix of warmth and confusion. The late nights when he came home, exhausted, yet still brought me my favorite snacks. The times he fought fiercely to defend me, ensuring I was treated with respect. The hugs, the quiet words of comfort, the little gestures I once thought were just marital affection. Now, when he said he only recently truly loved me, I felt torn. My heart was relieved knowing he loved me deeply, yet it also ached as if I had been living inside a delicate illusion, though no one had lied. One morning, I decided to face my feelings head-on. I sat on our balcony, sipping hot coffee, watching the city wake up beneath a soft morning mist. He stepped out and gently took my hand, asking, "What are you thinking about?" I sighed, forcing a small smile, "Just a lot of thoughts." He sat beside me, squeezing my hand. "I understand. You don't have to hide anything." I looked at him, feeling the urge to cry and laugh at the same time. I wanted him to know I loved him, but I was still wrestling with a whirlwind of emotions inside. He leaned his head on my shoulder and softly said, "You know, these past 3 years, I've been learning to understand you in my own way. Maybe I didn't feel that intense spark at first, but every day with you made me love you more." His words were like warm water filling my soul. I realized that love doesn't always explode. At first sight it can grow quietly, strengthened by time, trials, and understanding. In the following days, we spent more time talking openly. We no longer avoided sensitive topics. I shared my anxieties, sleepless nights, and the unanswered questions haunting my mind. He listened, not interrupting, not explaining too quickly, just sitting quietly and letting me feel that all my emotions were valid. One evening, while preparing dinner together, he looked at me and said, "I want you to know that even if I didn't burn with passion in the first 3 years, everything I did came from care and responsibility for you. I've been learning to love you in my own way." I laughed through tears. "You really are the most charmingly clumsy person I've ever known." We laughed together, cooking and sharing small stories. In that moment, I realized that understanding and love don't just live in words. They exist in the way we share our daily lives. One afternoon, we walked through a quiet street near home, lined with familiar cafes and tall, shady trees. He suddenly took my hand, pressing it gently. "I know I can be clumsy in expressing my feelings, but I want you to understand that the love I have for you is real, not just now, but in every day that has passed." I felt a warm wave wash over me. The questions about the past, about the first 3 years, slowly gave way to trust and peace. I realized that love doesn't always appear as a sudden, fiery emotion. It can be a process of learning, understanding, and nurturing in the days that followed. We found harmony in the little things. He remembered the foods I liked. I learned to be patient with his awkward ways of showing affection. We went grocery shopping together, cooked meals together, tidied our home together, and in these seemingly ordinary activities, love quietly flourished. One evening, sitting together on the sofa with cups of tea, I looked at him and said, "I've realized that love isn't always dramatic or fiery, but it exists in your presence and the way you care for me every day." He smiled, hugging me tightly. "I know, and I promise I'll always love you with all my heart, one day at a time, even if my way of showing it is clumsy." I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling our hearts almost sync. In that moment, I understood that true love is a journey, and we were walking it together. Those long days taught me that love isn't perfect from the beginning. There are confusing days, sleepless nights, but if both people are willing to understand, be patient, and care for each other, love grows stronger. I realized that those past 3 years weren't meaningless. They laid the foundation for the deep love we share today, and I knew that if we continued walking this path, accepting each other's flaws, understanding feelings, and loving every single day, our love would become stronger than ever. After the first few months of marriage, Elijah and I began to realize that challenges didn't just come from past friendships or subtle emotional ghosts. They also came from family and close friends, people who, sometimes intentionally or unintentionally, created tension. Married life isn't just a story of 2 people. It's a web of complex relationships surrounding them. One evening, when my family came to visit, the atmosphere was warm at first. But as the conversation turned toward the wedding, a few subtle remarks from relatives made me uneasy. "Elijah is lucky, but Connie has always been smart. Are you sure she doesn't still have feelings?" one relative said, half joking, half serious. I took a deep breath, knowing that reacting immediately could spark unnecessary conflict. "Thank you for your concern, but everything has been resolved," I said gently but firmly. Elijah squeezed my hand under the table, a silent yet powerful gesture showing he understood exactly what I was feeling. I also realized that not all friends genuinely celebrated our marriage. At a casual evening gathering with old friends, a few passing comments revealed that even people I had trusted could carry subtle jealousy or biases about my marriage. I learned that growing up meant recognizing that not all relationships are positive, and sometimes distance is necessary. A small example: one old friend kept bringing up Elijah's past closeness with Kami, almost testing my reaction. I simply smiled and redirected the conversation. Let's just focus on celebrating the present tonight. No argument, yet the boundary was maintained. This was one of the most important lessons in maturity: staying calm and protecting your own mental space. Elijah's family also presented their own challenges. One evening, during a dinner with them, a few remarks about Kami came up. They weren't malicious, but they emphasized that she had been a close friend for a long time, that she once played an important role in Elijah's life. I felt a twinge of worry, but quickly reminded myself Elijah had been transparent, and our love was stronger than any outside words. Elijah noticed my unease and whispered, "Don't worry. People can say what they want, but we know the truth. The truth is, you and I, always." His words calmed me. I realized that in marriage, sometimes stability comes from your partner's confidence more than any external argument. Another afternoon, Ava and I went shopping for an upcoming work event of Elijah's. Walking between stores, she said, "You know, I've realized that growing up isn't just about marriage. It's about how you handle challenges from friends and family. You're doing really well." I smiled, feeling her unconditional support. Strangely, I realized that true friends were a crucial part of growing up and maintaining happiness. Meanwhile, Elijah also learned to protect our personal space. One evening, a few of his close friends repeatedly messaged about Kami, seemingly testing his reaction. Elijah responded calmly, "Thanks, but it's all fine. Don't worry." Later, he said to me, "I will always maintain boundaries, and I know you understand the situation." I felt the maturity of both of us, not only emotionally, but in our ability to handle subtle situations gracefully. A bigger challenge came when a relative asked about our future plans, children and extended family. What seemed like harmless questions brought up worries about social pressures and expectations. Elijah and I sat down afterward and agreed we would live at our own pace, not letting outside pressures influence us. This was an important lesson. Growing up is about defining your own values and protecting your happiness. In the following week, we devoted time to peaceful moments, walking along Miami Beach, cooking together, or simply sitting on the balcony with coffee. These seemingly small moments acted as glue, helping me realize that happiness isn't just about overcoming conflicts, it's also about enjoying ordinary life together. One evening, looking out at the ocean, I thought to myself, all these challenges from friends, family, and subtle boundaries are lessons helping us grow. We're learning to be the best version of ourselves and build a life that no one can break. Elijah stood beside me, hand on my shoulder, smiling gently. "We've overcome so many challenges already, and everything only makes us stronger." I nodded, fully realizing that growing up isn't about age or experience, it's about loving, protecting, and patiently building a life together. By the end of these months, Elijah and I had come to an important truth. Happiness isn't automatic. It's the result of growth, wise choices, and emotional strength. We knew challenges from family and friends would continue to arise, but together we could protect our trust, love, and joy. We held hands, looking out at the Miami Beach sunset, and I smiled. We've grown, we've learned, and we'll keep learning. But the most important thing is that we have each other, and that's enough to overcome any challenge. Elijah pulled me closer, whispering, "Always." Every challenge only makes us stronger. We'll write this story together, day by day. In that moment, I understood that maturity isn't about age or experience. It's about the ability to love, protect, and patiently navigate life together. We had traveled a long road, and though challenges still lay ahead, I knew that with Elijah by my side, we could face anything. The day of the wedding had finally arrived, and Miami was glowing under the spring sun. The air was buzzing with excitement. Yet I felt a flicker of nervousness after all the challenges, misunderstandings, and subtle boundaries with Commie. I wondered if everything was truly settled. Stepping into the hotel room prepared for the ceremony, I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of fresh flowers, noticing the sunlight streaming through the windows, and hearing the soft breeze brushing against the balcony. Everything seemed to pause in that moment, as if the world itself was holding its breath for us. I reminded myself, today is about us, not the past or any lingering shadows. As the ceremony began, I watched Elijah standing there, perfectly dressed, his smile gentle yet strong, eyes shimmering with confidence. Looking at him, I realized that everything we had endured from the chaotic bachelorette party, Kami's sudden appearance, 2 subtle remarks from family and friends, had taught us a crucial lesson. Enduring love requires absolute trust, transparency, and courage to face every challenge. I took his hand, and as we exchanged vows, I looked deeply into his eyes and saw my reflection. A woman who had grown, who could face fears and protect what mattered most. My vows today were not only promises of love, but a pledge to navigate every trial together, big or small. After the ceremony, while guests congratulated us and took photos, Elijah pulled me onto the balcony for a private moment. The city below stretched out like a glittering carpet, the sea breeze carrying a hint of salt. I held his hand gently. We've been through so much, yet every hardship has made us stronger. He smiled, placing his hand over my heart. Everything we've gone through didn't just test our love, it strengthened our trust. Now we are truly ready for the journey ahead. Looking back, I recalled all the recent events, the chaotic bachelorette party, secret conversations with Ava and Antonio, subtle pressures from family and friends. Each situation tested patience, trust, and the ability to remain composed. But now, all of it had become a valuable lesson. I understood that happiness doesn't come from avoiding challenges, but from facing them together, understanding one another, and reinforcing our bond. That's why our love now was stronger than anything external could threaten. The evening wedding reception was vibrant, warm, and full of laughter. Family and friends joined in our joy, sharing memorable moments. I looked around and noticed those who were truly happy for us, relationships built on sincerity and respect. Elijah stood beside me, holding my hand, and I knew that no matter what happened, we would face it together. Ava winked at me as if to say, "We did it. Everything's okay." Antonio smiled too, and I realized that setting boundaries, confronting the past, and growing up had protected this joy for us. After the reception, we walked along the beach under the moonlight. The sand was cool beneath our feet, the waves lapping gently against the shore. Everything peaceful to the point of disbelief. Elijah pulled me close, whispering, "We've proven that true love is patience, trust, and the ability to grow together." I rested my head on his shoulder, thinking, every challenge only made us stronger. Every past experience is precious luggage, helping us step into the future with confidence and complete love. I realized that our story wasn't just about romantic love, but a journey of maturity, learning to face subtle emotions from the past, maintaining boundaries and protecting happiness, growing through partnership, trust, and understanding. Everything we experience, jealousy, family pressures, subtle anxieties about friendships, was now simply chapters in a larger story of enduring love. Elijah and I had written a new chapter together, one in which trust, growth, and love formed an unshakable foundation. As dawn broke over Miami, sunlight spilled into the room where we rested, and I looked at Elijah, smiling. We've gone through so much, but now, true happiness is what we build together. Every day he returned my smile softly, pulling me into his arms. Exactly. Every challenge we've faced has only made us stronger. We will continue moving forward together, writing this story, and nothing can break our love. In that moment, I understood that happiness is not automatic. It is a choice, a product of maturity, and a shared commitment. Elijah and I had closed one journey and simultaneously opened a new chapter. A place where love is not just emotion, but patience, trust, and enduring growth. Each coming day would be an opportunity to learn, love, and protect our happiness. We held hands, looking out at the sparkling sea at sunrise, knowing that no matter what surprises the future held, we would face them together, strong, trusting, and fully in love, with the dawn and the gentle sound of waves. I felt deeply that every challenge, conflict, and misunderstanding had taught us invaluable lessons. Now we were ready to embark on a new journey, hearts open, trust solid, and love complete. This was the beginning of the next chapter of our life, one built on patience, maturity, and a love that could weather anything.